Hello, welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, I'm beginning to say more happy Tuesdays than before. Well, I shouldn't say than before, than not. So today I'm going to be continuing with three more chapters of Ecclesiastes, chapters 4, 5, and 6. And we started, these are all Solomon's thoughts. Ecclesiastes, Proverbs was Solomon's words of wisdom and inspiration from his general observations of things that he experienced. These views and thoughts, everything he's talking about, he keeps saying I and my. And what he's doing here is observing his life from all of the things that he has been blessed with and just thinking, he's mentioned a lot about knowledge and wisdom. And in all of that, I know he's referring to himself also as to what he has come to realize about his life for all the things that he's done. And we've all done it. We've done some things, good, bad, or indifferent, and then sat back one day and said, my gosh, how have I lived? Has it been good? What have I done that has really been of notoriety, of purpose? And this is why he came to the conclusion all was vanity. And believe you me, if he could say that with all the riches, riches untold, what we read in the Bible for us to see it, the things that Solomon had. Wow. Like I said, if God would allow me a glimpse into Solomon's palace, maybe when I get to heaven, and to give me a little glimpse, maybe to see what it looked like. But maybe I won't even care when I do get there. But he's now finding everything was just vanity, just foolishness. And this is from the wisest man that ever lived, okay, as far as wisdom goes. Okay, let's continue. So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. So again, he's examining his life. All the oppressive things. Behold the tears of such as were oppressed. They had no comforter. This is verse 1 of chapter 4. And again, just to remind you, I'm not reading the chapters like I did with the other books, because this here is more, reading Solomon's thoughts is like, I don't want to do that. I just want to give like little summaries of each of the things that I have highlighted, the things that I think that were of really renown that he said. Verse 4, again, I considered every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. We know that. Either we've done it, God forbid. And I must say, I tell myself, I may have thought at time, that's nice. I wouldn't mind having that. But to envy someone, envy is close to hate. Yeah, because one leads into the other. If you envy someone, then you are wanting what that person has so much to the fact that you hate them for having it. So he's saying that's it. When you have all of these things, and I'm sure Solomon knew envy from other people. When they looked and saw how he was richly blessed, they didn't even consider he was blessed. They just said, this man is rich. And maybe, you know what? People never think you ought to have what you have. Why is that? Okay. You are envied of your neighbor. A man is envied of his neighbor for every right work. Things that you worked for, things that you got very honestly. People look at it and don't think you ought to have it. Okay, verse 6. Better is an handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. Amen to that. I would take peace above prosperity any day. And I mean that. If I can have the two, that'll be perfect. But I don't want prosperity and turmoil. I prefer to have peace and very little, or little. It's okay. So verse 7 says, then I returned and I saw vanity under the sun. Here we go right back again with vanity. There is one alone, verse 8. He hath neither child nor brother, yet is there no end of all his labor. I'll say this. I look at some of these prospering, what we call famous people, actors, actresses, singers, sports people. And they work for years and they earn millions of dollars and they work and they keep earning. And I ask myself, when is there a cutoff point? When do they decide that it's enough? Few of them, very few, have decided to come out of that industry altogether at an early stage. Others, they live on and they perform and they perform and they perform. Maybe they do like it, but I would not like to think that they're doing it because they have to. When does it ever become enough? This is what Solomon is saying. He has no child. You have no siblings. You have no one to leave this money to. And yet, like, you can't stop working. Oh my gosh. And that was verse 8. He says, neither saith he, for whom do I labor and bereave my soul of good? And a lot of times, these people don't even travel. They don't give to charities. Well, at least as far as I know. God only knows what they do with the money they earn. Mercy. And you know, just like Solomon said in Proverbs, you're going to die and leave it to someone and you don't even know what they're going to do with it. How about you enjoy it while you can? Okay. It's good to leave an inheritance for your children and your children's children. But how about when you're alive, you enjoy some of it too? That's what God says. Enjoy the work of your hands. Verse 10, woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath none to help him up. So true. Verse 12, a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Of course, the stronger, the more, the stronger. Better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king who will not be admonished. Have you ever met some leaders? You can't tell them anything. I don't even know why they have advisors, because they just go ahead and do what they want. Verse 14, for out of prison he cometh to reign. Oh boy. He that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. Anyone who has taken a convict, ex-convict, or anyone who has been in some sort of trouble in the past to be their leader, you're going to have trouble. That's exactly what Solomon says. Verse 16, there is no end of all to the people, and it's the people who suffer. Be careful who we dip, or we don't dip our fingers in ink anymore, do we? I haven't done it so long, but anyway, be careful who you choose to be in power. Verse 5, chapter 5. So that's the end of my summary of some of the verses in chapter 4. Chapter 5, keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give sacrifice of fools. Listen, when you go to church, I know some people sit down in church and they talk from beginning to end because it's like a social event. It's supposed to be an uplifting and inspirational time. Verse 3, a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words. I tell you, I have worked at a place where I have seen this proven time and time again. Every time there were some workers that I met with, and I tell you, every time they opened their mouths, this verse came to mind. A fool is known by their multitude of words. And some people think their ability to just prat is a gift. Wow, no more said. Verse 6, suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Ooh, be careful what you say, because next thing you know, sometimes words become actions. Verse 8, if thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent perversion of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter. You know, some people stand around, like when the police is attacking people or there is somebody hurting another person, and you stand up looking at it, videotaping it, or whatever the case might be. I know in our day to day that is seen as a chivalrous thing. I mean, if you can't stop it, maybe you ought to go get some call up. I don't know what it is, but I can't stand around to see that. I can't stand up and videotape people hurting each other. That's wrong. That's a perversion of judgment and justice. Don't be, you know, don't take part in that by viewing it like that. Okay? Verse 9 says, the profit of the earth is for all. That means the earth belongs to us all. God didn't just give. I think the only people he apportioned land to were the Israelites, and they are no more. There is no more Judah and, you know, Jerusalem, etc., etc. Yeah, there's that place they call Israel. That's about it. There is no land that God himself said anybody. He gave the earth to us all. Okay? Uh, verse 12, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much. And I know that. I'm telling you, I don't know if it's older years that's causing sleep to be not so sweet because I'm not working as hard. But God knows. But I tell you, sometimes even when I labor, my sleep could not be sweet. So, but it's true. You should be able to sleep well after a hard day's work. Verse 15. As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came. And even though they put us in clothes when we are buried, or most of us we die wearing clothing, it's going to rot off your body. Okay, so all that fancy stuff we want to spend money on, and just everyone has the choice to spend as they wish. But you know, when you consider, sometimes you can be doing something a lot more profitable with your funds. Okay, verse 19, God has given riches and wealth and hath given him power to eat thereof. So that's for the laboring man. It is from God. And I think I was telling my daughter this the other day. Sometimes we are so upset, especially like Monday. Monday is a day nobody wants to go back to work because they had such a wonderful, restful, enjoyable weekend. But you know what? If you ever think that your job is a blessing, which we ought to, we would be happy. And especially these days, because there are so many people losing their jobs and want jobs. I get so many prayer requests from, the organizations that I pray with, and they want jobs. Most people. Okay, so we need to consider this is the gift of God, and God answereth him in the joy of his heart. That's verse 20, and that's the end of chapter 5. So I've reviewed 2 chapters, 4 and 5. I'm going on to 6. And he begins, there is an evil which I have seen under the sun, a man to whom God has given riches, wealth, and honor, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. And now I'm in verses 1 and 2 of chapter 6. Sometimes, have you ever seen somebody has a whole bunch of money and they die early, young, in their early years, and then somebody comes after them and they enjoy the fruits of that person's labor? Go figure. I don't know. Verse 6, yea, though he live 1,000 years twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Isn't that terrible? Sometimes some people are just born for adversity. Have you ever felt that way? Sometimes it just seems like you cannot get right. Verse 7, all the labor of man is for his mouth. Most times, that's what we labor for, to eat. Appetite. Verse 9, better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. And too many of us, I think, live in that moment of wanting. But we never are fulfilled. And verse 12, for who knoweth what is good for man in this life? All the days of his vain life which he spendeth as a shadow. For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? Nobody can tell a man what goes on after he dies, because you know what? We have no more communication with that person. That person is dead, and the dead know nothing. So we have nothing to say to them, and they say nothing to us. And anybody who thinks they hear from the dead, that's not the dead. Okay? And I think by now people ought to know. The dead know nothing. The spirits that be, the familiar spirits that hang around, been around forever, they are the ones that impersonate, and you are so wanting to see and hear from your loved ones that you believe that that's them. But it's not. The dead are dead. They sleep until Jesus comes. That's it for our reading for today. I could read more, and maybe later on I will. And if I do, well, yay. But until then, remember, faith comes when we hear God's word. So keep on listening. Take care.